Labour will abolish the laws, Minister confirms, but it will take 10 years. We're going to read into this exclusive from iNews, you guys. Let's go. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. This is Reganelite here with an exclusive from iNews with the headline that Labour will abolish the laws, the Minister confirms, but it will take 10 years. Cabinet Office Minister commits to the alternative second chamber. Guys, while you're here, make sure you hit the like button and share it across social media so others are notified of this video. 10 years. Are people prepared to wait 10 years? That's 2 terms. I don't know. Like, people need... the thing is that while I understand this is a long process, I understand that. And I think, you know, I'm prepared to be patient. But if you were to ask people on the streets, like, because of the way the system... if people understood and how the Lords and the House of Lords worked and the system works, people would understandably want it abolished sooner. The change is done sooner. But there are so many challenges that are going to be facing Labour in order to push this through as well, because there's going to be there will be Labour MPs within government, there will be obviously opposition to this, there will be Lords against this as well, because they do not want to change their system, they want to keep the system that they have. But it is an old system and one that's well past its sell-by date that needs to change. Now, while they are committed to... while it obviously sounds like here they are committed to going in that right direction, it's nowhere near enough for the amount of work that needs to be done. We do need an elected chamber instead. You know, the system that they have of just putting their own people in the House of Lords, being able to pick people and ones that we don't have any control of, because this is the thing, this is the frustration. We have no say about the House of Lords or anything about it. We, the public, we don't get a say in any of its shape or form. And remember, these people all paid by us, the taxpayer money. We have no say in it whatsoever. It's all down to the House of Lords and the governments here to make whatever amendments and changes necessary. It needs to go, and it goes or it changes in such a way that we, the people, have more of a say in it. That's what needs to happen. And I think that's really, really important. So let's just read into this, guys, and see what more it has to say with this. So it says the government remains committed to scrapping the House of Lords, but it may take 10 years, the senior cabinet minister has signalled. So writing for the the Minister of the Cabinet Office, Nick Thomas-Symonds, said it remains Labour's commitment to replace the Lords with an alternative second chamber in the long term while leaving the upper house traditions intact. So I understand that ministers view the replacement of the laws as a constitutional overhaul that is likely to take 2 terms in government and the best part of a decade. And here's the thing. Within that period, it's entirely possible that the Conservatives or another political party can come in and basically screw everything up as well. It's whether or not... the thing is that that's the problem as well. And obviously the challenges that it's going to face in doing so. It is understandable that it will take time, but the problem is if people would... I know obviously other things that are on our minds, you know, the cost of living crisis, NHS and whatnot. We do have much more important issues to deal with. I'm totally aware of that, and I accept that if you put that in the comments down below. But in terms of the political system that we have in place, in the way that policies and policies that enact are becoming law, the House of Lords definitely needs to change or be abolished in some way, shape or form, because of the fact that we as a public, members of the public, don't have any say in it whatsoever. And that's the problem that I have personally with it. The Cabinet Office Minister spoke after introducing legislation to eject all remaining hierarchy peers who sit in the Lords by birthright from the upper chamber. Thomas-Symonds said the House of Lords hierarchy peers bill was essential because young people from every part of the UK must have the same chance as anyone else of making laws of the land. He added that people should not be voting on our laws in Parliament by an accident of birth, and that the hierarchy principle in lawmaking is out of step with modern Britain. The government also remains committed to the medium term to forcing members of the Lords to retire at 80 years old. I'm perfectly happy with that, especially if it knocks down the numbers of Lords as well. Campaigners welcomed the bill and Thomas-Symonds' commitment to replacing the laws, but insisted that any new second chamber must be smaller, and it is second in size of legislative chambers, only to China's National People's Congress, to be made up of elected members. Experts, meanwhile, suggested the scrapping of hierarchy peers was an easy first step, but that more wholesale reform may prove difficult amid resistance from MPs, peers, and ministers. So Meg Russell, Director of Consultation Unit at UCL, that's University College London, said that long-term laws reform has defied previous Labour governments, including those of Harold Wilson and Tony Blair. Nick Clegg's proposal was similarly scuppered in the coalition years. While it's easy to agree that the House of Lords needs change, there's far less agreement on what should replace it. This is a problem here, and they need to be. The majority of Labour MPs need to be on board on what the replacement should be if they want to make this happen, and they should try to get as much cross-party consensus as they possibly can. If they are planning within the time frame of 10 years or so, they need to get as much political, not just obviously their own party, they need to get other political parties more on board with the needs for this change. Because if we don't, then we're just going to be carrying on, once again, taxpayer money could be spent on this House of Lords once again, where we have no say on it. It's really important that this change comes. MPs and ministers tend to fear a newly asserted elected chamber challenging the Commons, while voters rather like the expert and non-partisan nature of the Lords. Yes, I understand the non-partisan bit, but voters not having any say whatsoever in the Lords, I disagree with that. I don't think people... I mean, if you put it to ordinary people on the street saying that some things are decided by the House of Lords by a bunch of people who are not elected in any way, shape, or form, that's not democracy to people's eyes. It's not any kind of democracy in any way, shape, or form. You don't have a say in it. That's the thing that bothers me. It's really important we have our say. This government seems serious about consulting on longer-term reform, but experience suggested agreements may prove difficult. That makes it really important to act on other promises in the manifesto, particularly tackling the chamber's size and tightening up the appointment process. Hannah White, Director of Institute for Government, said Labour has talked big on law reforms, but in line with comprehensive changes, it would be politically tricky and time-consuming. Has reached out on what ought to be the easiest and most publicly marketable first step. Asking the upper chamber to vote on its own reforms has never proven easy, but non-hierarchy peers may calculate that dispensing with the most egregious feature of their house will dissipate the new government's appease for broader reforms, or for a while at least. Darren Hughes, Chief Executive of the Electoral Reform Society, said the government's legislation removes the 92 all-male hierarchy peers. It's an essential and much-needed reform to the laws, as lawmaking by birthright has no place in modern democracy. We welcome the Minister's commitment to ultimately replace the current unelected laws with a more representative upper chamber. The undemocratic and unrestrained way that new peers are created means that at 800 members of the Lords in the second largest legislative chamber in the world after China's National People's Congress, this is not sustainable. The best way to make the Lords more representative of the people in this country is to have members chosen and by accountable to the people of this country. This is why these reforms must culminate in the Lords to become a smaller elected chamber with a set number of members that are chosen democratically and not by whoever happens to sit in 10 Downing Street. The Conservative Party has been contacted for comment. So why have they not commented on it? Because they probably don't want to change it. A landmark reform vital to modernise Parliament. Within the first 100 days of office, this government has begun biggest reforms of the UK's Parliament in the quarter of a century by starting the removal of remaining hierarchy peers from the House of Lords. This is a landmark reform to our constitution. The second chamber plays a vital role in our constitution, and people should not be voting on our laws in Parliament by accident of birth. I want young people growing up in my constituency in every part of the country to feel that they have the same change as anyone else of making the laws of this land. That is why the hierarchy principle in the law it has lasted too long and is out of step with modern Britain. Reform of the upper chamber has taken place gradually over the previous century, ever since the constitutional crisis of 1911. Reinvigorating this process is a priority for this government, which is committed to being a government of public service. The House of Lords plays an important role in our constitutional system, and it holds the government to account and scrutinises legislation. Its members, coming from many different walks of life with their various expertise, are well placed to do this. However, the House of Lords is one of the largest legislative bodies in the world and needs to be reformed. The last Labour government made significant progress with the House of Lords Act of 1999, which removed over 600 peers from the upper chamber. However, 92 hierarchy seats were retained, making the House of Lords an international outliner, one of just 2 chambers in the world that still reserves seats for members of hierarchy bases. Of course, while many hierarchy peers in the House of Lords make valuable individual contributions to the chamber, collectively they owe their place in Parliament to an accident of birth. This government comes to office in July with a mandate to end this arrangement. That is why I was proud to introduce the bill to the House of Commons this week that will remove the remaining hierarchy peers from the second chamber as part of our clear manifesto commitment to reform the House of Lords. This change will enact the Lords' ability to hold the government to account and scrutinise legislation, its tradition and its place in the parliamentary system. And our work in the long term to replace it with an alternative second chamber is far more representative of the people it serves, remains part of our commitment for a fairer and more modern Britain. This was written by Nick Thomas-Symonds, is the Minister for the Cabinet Office. This in his letter he wrote here for the I. I like a lot of what he is saying there, but like we always say with this Labour government, action not words. But 10 years is a very long time to see that change. But also at the same time, I am very understanding of something like this, of a constitution to change something like this will take a long time to do. But the question obviously is, and as we've seen in the article, is will we get the changes that people want? A part of me feels like that we will get some changes, but not enough of the changes that we want. That's kind of how I feel about this when I read into this. I feel that based on history, we may not get enough of the changes that we want, and I can just see MPs squabbling over the kind of changes that are made to it. At least there is something coming here, but it obviously is very important that those who want the changes to become, those who have been campaigning for the change, the abolishment of the House of Lords, those who have been working on those campaign groups and whatnot to help push and change our electoral system and our policy system for the better, must continue to pressure and push the Labour government in the right direction in doing so. And not only just Labour, like I said, other political parties need to feel that pressure too. It's not just a case of a Labour government, but making that pressure felt on other political parties to push them in the right direction, that we can all get the change we need, so that the Lords itself will no longer be something that is completely out of touch with the British public, and hopefully be more inclined with them, and something that we can then finally have a say more on. But honestly, guys, what do you think? What do you think about Labour's plans to abolish the Lords that Nick Thomas-Symonds has said? But it would take 10 years to do so. Would you be prepared to wait 10 years? Could you understand that something like this will take a long process to do? Or are some of you incredibly impatient and just want it done within the first term? Or are there other priorities that need to take place? Let me know your thoughts and more about all this down in the comments section below. If you found this video interesting, please hit the like button. We greatly appreciate it. Share it across social media so others are notified of this video. And subscribe if you haven't already, because it really does help support the channel. And if you want to go one step further, financially support me and the work that I do here, you could do so by becoming a YouTube member for as little as 99p, or join me on Rumble or Patreon for exclusive content on those platforms. So thank you all so much for watching, and I hope to catch you all very, very soon.